Ladies and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Selby.
And we are back. Yes, we are still alive. We made it through another Thursday night football game. Thanks to Jason Kelce. That is how we survived this, is essentially what happened there on Amazon Prime Video. What a lovely program we've got going on there. My goodness, we watched Panthers at the Chicago Bears. Bears come out victorious. Tyson Bagent gets a win. We're going to break it down for you on this episode and also give you some Week 10 studs and duds. First things first, though, Wes, how are we?
Can we just talk about Jason Kelce on the Thursday Night Football? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What an insult to Panthers and Bears fans. Like, oh, we know this is going to suck. This is going to be a garbage game. Let's get a player from another team to go talk in the booth with us. That is absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, and for like the first half, too. This wasn't just like, oh, cool, he's like on the sideline. He came to support somebody. No, they brought him in the booth.
Yeah.
I could not believe it.
He was
I
on
could
pregame.
not believe it.
He was on pregame, and it was like, oh, cool. Jason Cousins on a bye week. He got a primetime slot. He's entertaining. You know, he's got a podcast. Cool. He's pregame. Cool. Whatever. Yeah, sure. And then he's like in the booth with Kirk and Al, and it's like, what? There's a tweet that was like, Jason Kelce is in the booth on Thursday Night Football, and Al Michaels looks the happiest he has looked all season long. It was just absurd. I don't understand. Like, it wasn't. It not to mention just like a player from another team. It's like, and I know the Kelce brothers are hot right now in the pop culture world, sports world, all that stuff. But it's like, it's not even like Jalen Hurts. It's not even like it's not even like an old teammate of Bryce Young's or Justin Fields or like anything like that. They went to college with him or something like that. No, it's just, hey, let's grab that center from
no association.
The Philadelphia Eagles. Well, actually, you know what? I just realized. Here's what it was. Here's what it was. I bet it might, one way or another, there was contractual obligation. Maybe for Jason on Jason's side, or it might have been on Amazon's side, but the Jason Kelce documentary was on Amazon Prime Video. So that may have been the connection, but it's like, what are we doing here? Like pregame is enough. Middle of the game, and they're talking about the tush push. Middle of the game, and they're showing Jason
which
Kelce
nobody's
laying
doing.
on his stomach on his What are we? What are we doing here? Amazon Prime Video. Thank goodness we've got
Prime
Ravens
sucks.
we got Ravens at Bengals next week, and thank God, because it finally should be a good game.
I wouldn't count on it.
I was gonna say, knowing Amazon Prime and Bezos, they're probably gonna fix it, and we're gonna get injuries.
Chiefs had
and
a terrible Thursday night.
Gosh, yeah, it was just, what are we doing here, guys? Amazon Prime Video sucks. It is. I hope
hilarious.
I hope they don't pick up the podcast one day and they go back into the archive and find this episode.
It's like Juju Smith-Schuster when he was like that served as a video or Instagram picture where he's like, oh, a Patriots fan, and then it cuts to him like signing with the Patriots.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
Ew.
That's us
disgusting.
In the future. Maybe.
Anyway, I'm good. How are you? Yay.
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. Listen, hey, we got some stuff going on social media this week, the past few days. It's been pretty cool. We know on Tuesday we talked about what just an absurd amount of star players are on a bye this week, and we wanted to share with you guys that, hey, good luck. You're going to lose this week because your best player is on their bye week. And a lot of you guys related to that, like a lot of you guys. That was pretty crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of attention on Instagram on that, a lot on TikTok, YouTube. Like, everybody just was feeling it this week. I mean, there were some crazy just comments of people who had 8 players out. I saw one comment that was like, my entire starting lineup is on a bye week. And I like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
Like, what do we, like, absolutely ridiculous.
Well done drafting.
Yeah, fantastic job there. I know sometimes people are like, yeah, whatever, I'll deal with bye weeks when it gets there. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I should have dealt with it. I'm gonna score 8 points this week. That's cool. Wes, any comments you saw? I mean, there was a couple I saw. Do you have any?
Some of these made me lol.
Yeah, tell me.
So I think it's the most liked comment on TikTok from Big Hoss Ellie. I think that's their name. Said, "Joke's on you. Cup is my worst player for 2 weeks in a row now."
Hey, and then there's an optimistic way of looking at it. There you go.
I know. It's just hilarious.
Really grateful this week. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I got a lot of people were like, finally, I can bench Jalen Waddle without feeling bad. So I was like, yeah, good point. Yeah. Jarek Koloniski said, "You know you're bad when this doesn't affect you." I was like,
yeah, I saw that one too. That was so funny. Yeah.
Maybe.
You know your team is terrible when this just doesn't matter.
They're like, okay, I have no bye weeks. Yeah. And then the last one I saw was very funny. Gab on TikTok also said, "Joke's on you. I have no good players." So
joke's on you. My team sucks anyways. Yeah, no, there were a couple people on Instagram.
Very funny.
One on Instagram here. Somebody reposted it on their story and just said, "Taking the bye week with my dogs." They're just already giving up on the week. They're just saying, it's my bye week too. It just doesn't matter. It's my fantasy team's bye week. We're not playing either. And then this wasn't actually from that video. This is just, I got to shout out this comment because it's just so funny. It was just, when I saw it come in, I was like, yeah, that's a fantastic comment. I'm really glad that someone posted that on our video. It was on our video that was posted on Tuesday on YouTube of Bryce Young being a bust, which we'll talk a little bit more about on our Thursday night recap. But the comment was from V, just V. Said, yes, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences. Unfortunately, anyone can make a podcast nowadays. Take me back. It's just like, hey, thanks, V.
Wow. This is the most creative burn I've ever had.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We're throwing the Industrial Revolution into just talking about how much you think our podcast sucks. All right. It's just, I can't get the giggles.
It's
just
all right. I'm ready.
Hey, all of that just to say, make sure you're following us on all our social medias. We're putting stuff out. If you just want to laugh along with some of these comments, it's pretty hilarious. Also, like, subscribe, ring the bell, drop it in the comments. Let us know how much you love the Industrial Revolution. Because V let us know. And so let us know your thoughts on the Industrial Revolution and your favorite part of it. Yeah.
Waiver wire out of the week, fantasy.
Yeah. Welcome back to For the Troll Fantasy. This week we're counting down the top 10 moments of the Industrial Revolution. At number 10, podcasts.
Right.
All right.
Oh my
cool.
gosh.
Sounds good. Listen.
What a start.
Oh my gosh. We gotta talk. Do we have to talk about football? What are we doing here? I don't even know.
I don't know. Should have a separate podcast.
Listen, I guess there's we should. I guess there's our first guest on For the Troll Fantasy is going to be V. That's it. Oh my god.
Goodness. Okay. This is the silliest show ever.
I think we've got some news to talk about. Wes, do we have news to
talk
about?
We do.
Okay.
We do have some news. All right. Not a whole lot, but some important stuff, especially with this crazy, awful bye week. First things first, the best wide receiver in the NFL, Justin Jefferson. The 21-day practice window opened up for him on Wednesday. He is not slated to start this week. That is not expected to happen for the Vikings, but it is looking optimistic that after this week, maybe week 11, JJ is back on the field. Speaking of starters, Will Levis is officially the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. I could have told you that was the move, but they decided that they needed some time to consider it. They announced that, I believe, on Tuesday, and we'll see where Ryan Tannehill goes if he touches the field for the Titans again, but that's the plan. Carson Wentz signed with the Los Angeles Rams to back up Matthew Stafford. Now, to the best of our knowledge, Sean McVay did not actually confirm if Carson Wentz is going to start. I did not see anything. Did you see anything, Noah?
I didn't see anything either. In fact, what I actually did see was them saying they're optimistic that Matthew Stafford does play after the bye week. So
okay,
could be able to put some wide receivers back into your lineup there with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua if Stafford is there.
Yeah,
and if I'm being honest, I might, if I'm in a situation where I have to, I might feel okay putting Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back in my lineup, even if it's Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is not Brett Rippon.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
For fantasy purposes, this is definitely on the better side of the outcomes. James Conner is eligible to return as early as this Sunday, baby, after the Cardinals opened up his 21-day practice window on Wednesday. So he's already feeling very good.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is not feeling all that great. It felt like that he was possibly going to be out this week. He was experiencing some soreness in his back. He was limited this week, and he has actually been trending in the right direction. He could actually still play, but be prepared just in case he doesn't. But T. Higgins will not play. T. Higgins is going to be out. This was after multiple practices that he did not participate in, so be mindful of that. I was going to tease something, but we'll talk about some of our studs and duds later on. But you got an idea of where this might be going. Tommy DeVito is officially going to be the starter for the Giants after their upcoming... I phrase this very funny. Tommy DeVito is officially the starter for the Giants' upcoming loss against the Dallas Cowboys. Which is true. So
this is... I mentioned it on Tuesday. Guys... The Cowboys' defense and special teams put up 40 fantasy points against a healthy Giants team. This team does not have Daniel Jones. This team does not have Darren Waller. This team does not have Tyrod Taylor playing quarterback. It is Tommy DeVito. 60 points from the Cowboys' defense on Sunday. Here we go. Yeah. Just ready up. Here we got it.
And an update from the previous episode, I did in fact drop Dak Prescott. Well, I have 2 on a bye week. So I'm starting Jared Goff instead because of a better chance for some offensive points. Mm-hmm. Anything above what Dak Prescott will do is going to be great.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have a bad feeling about any Cowboys offensive players. Okay, last couple here. Then we jump into the Thursday night recap. Drake London returned to practice on Wednesday. He is trending in the right direction to play this week. Nico Collins and Dameon Pierce both did not practice on Wednesday or on Thursday. They are not expected to play this week following that amazing game against the Buccaneers. Christian Watson is back to practice. He is in line to start. David Montgomery has been practicing all week long, and he should be ready to start after missing a lot of games. Deebo Samuel is expected to start for the first time in a few weeks. TJ Hawkinson still plans to play Sunday. He is still dealing with a rib injury, which might affect his snap count and might affect his targets. We'll see if he does play, but that's it for the news. Let's talk about the Panthers and the Bears and all that we learned from Thursday night.
Yeah, let's do it. Listen, so Thursday night, like we said, we got through it and we made it out. We did okay. Let's jump into must starts, risky starts, and don't starts, just because stuff we got to talk about here. So our must starts for this week: Cole Kmet, 9.6 fantasy points. The tight end spot, not too bad there. Definitely the lower of his previous 2 weeks, but not something you're probably too disappointed about. 7 targets. It was a 16-13 game, guys. I mean, there wasn't a lot of scores to go around, so. Not a great time there. And that leads into Adam Thielen as well. 10.2 fantasy points for Adam Thielen. Second week in a row, less than 12 points. I expected this to be a better game for Thielen, but the Panthers offense was just bad. They didn't score.
Yeah.
They weren't responsible for any of the points on the board. It was a punt return touchdown and 2 field goals. So it's not necessarily exciting stuff there. I know I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried about either of these guys, but you're probably a little bummed if this was a start to your week. So there's that portion must starts.
10 targets is the encouragement from.
That's what you hold on to. Yeah, that's what you hold on to is 10 targets. He's still Bryce Young's favorite target. We just may need to reevaluate the quality of those targets as we've gone on through the season. I'm not sure. I will say, we'll save the Bryce Young talk, actually. We'll save that in just a second.
Fair enough.
Risky starts. My risky start was Khalil Herbert. This was obviously nullified because he did not play. Obviously, then that led to really strong performance from Deontay Foreman, who we'll talk about in just a second.
Oh, yeah.
And then your risky start, Wes, was DJ Moore, 10.9 fantasy points. Again, 9 targets from Bajent. You hold on to the targets here, and we're just hopeful for Justin Fields to return after 10 days of rest. Hopefully, we will get him back. That is the plan as we know it, is that he will be starting next week. And DJ Moore, I think, still is somehow going to be turning in he's still going to finish the week probably as a top 10 wide receiver on the season because he is still going into the game wide receiver 9 from those 2 big games.
Wow.
So he'll probably still be a wide receiver 10, especially with all the strong receivers on bye weeks. So those were risky starts. It's a risk. We tempered your expectation. Obviously, Khalil Herbert didn't play. So there you go. And then the don't starts. Wes, you just said don't start everyone else, which in hindsight, we look at it as was a fantastic piece of advice. It was a fantastic piece of advice. It was what we needed to
Aside
hear.
from Donta Foreman, we didn't know he was going to be the starter. Exactly. I would have said fire him up, but yeah.
Which we actually, well, here we'll say that for just a second. My don't start specific player that I gave was Miles Sanders. Now, 3 fantasy points. Checks out. Hope you didn't start him. I'm sad. I'm sad about Miles Sanders. This is not how I wanted this season to go. I don't know if he necessarily looked worse than Chuba Hubbard running the ball. I mean, he had -5 yards, so obviously the production was worse, but
statistically, yes.
Statistically, but like Chuba Hubbard still sucked. Chuba Hubbard had 9 carries for 23 yards and the same production in the passing game. So I don't know. I think I don't have the exact snap count, but Wes, did it feel like we saw a little bit more progressively of Miles Sanders this Thursday night?
It felt better than it did the last 2 weeks, but it was never a game script for them to run. That was not what the Panthers did on Thursday. They did not rush the ball a lot. I mean, let me scout it out here. Combined, they had 11 carries. That is not asserting your dominance offensively.
No. And the Bears gave up I believe they gave up the 3rd most yards per rush or something. It was something along those lines. I believe they said that stat on the broadcast. I'm still not dropping Miles Sanders if I can help it. Unless I absolutely have to, I'm not dropping him yet. This might be foolish advice. This might be me holding on to a preseason call that I just really won't hope starts to even out again. But personally, I mean, I'll just say, in the league where I have Miles Sanders, I can't drop him. It is impossible. My other running backs are Roshan Johnson, Devin Singletary, Ty Chandler, and Rico Dowdle. I lost Nick Chubb to start the year, and I thought that Miles Sanders would be a lot better. So those are my 1-2 guys. This hasn't panned out at all. It's been rough. I've escaped with some victories, and I have Raheem Mostert this week, but he's on a bye. So we're figuring things out, I guess, maybe. Who knows?
I don't think anyone still has Miles Sanders. I think it is just you. And I think it is maybe there's a week where he just pops off and you can be the one to own him, and then maybe you can package him in a charade. Check with the roster percentages. Miles Sanders, higher or lower? 10%.
A lot higher than I would think.
Okay, go ahead.
67%.
Wow. Okay, never mind. So people are holding on to him.
Which I think this is just a sign of the running back landscape of how
that's fair.
How bad running backs are this year. Also, how many running backs are on bye weeks, and maybe somebody was like, "I guess I'll take a dart throw on Miles Sanders." I don't know, We'll see what happens.
And Swift and Mostert.
Yeah, I mean, he's owned in 67% of leagues. He's only being started in 22% of leagues. So it's not like it's anything exciting. But, I mean, I think a perfect picture can be displayed here with Miles Sanders of this Carolina Panthers team right now is that Miles Sanders got the second most expensive running back contract this offseason, a 3-year deal with the Carolina Panthers. And he had 2 carries for -5 yards on Thursday night. And former Carolina Panthers running back D'Onta Foreman, who was on the practice squad for the first 4 weeks of the season for the Chicago Bears, had 21 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown and 17.2 fantasy points. So this Panthers team is a mess. It is, it is real bad, and it's not something that I think is going to be turning itself around anytime soon. I don't know. I mean, let's segue that into just D'Onta Foreman. Let's give him his flowers real quick because there's not many other people to talk about on the Bears. D'Onta Foreman. We tweeted out on Thursday morning when it was announced that Khalil Herbert was not expected to play. We said we talked about the revenge game for DJ Moore, and the revenge game we're actually going to get tonight is D'Onta Foreman versus his former team. He gets into the end zone, 21 carries for 80 yards. He's running quite efficiently. Missed about half a quarter as well. I was actually really worried because there was the report that Foreman was in the blue medical tent, and it was after like a couple drives for them, and he was running really well. He already had like 6 fantasy points. He was actually running the ball very well. And I was like, no, man, not like this. Like I started D'Onta Foreman in leagues where I could grab him, and I'm thrilled. I'm very happy about it. So it was disappointing to see him like blue medical tent, and then I saw a video from a fan toward near the sideline of him towards the end of the half, kind of like jogging and testing the ankle and stuff like that. And that's when I was like, okay, we might be okay. And then he comes out, gets into the end zone, has a couple catches too. Great fantasy performance on a Thursday night. Great start to a week, especially with so many bye weeks. If you have D'Onta Foreman, 17.2 points. Let's talk about the garbage Panthers. They're bad, dude. They're bad, and we all know this. They've won 1 game. Now, I said on Tuesday I was ready to call Bryce Young a bust. And I may revise my statement here. And I believe we'll agree on this. I know that you said things that will back this up on Tuesday. Bryce Young should not have been the first quarterback drafted. Bryce Young should not have been the second quarterback drafted. And Bryce Young should not have been the third quarterback drafted. There are 3 other rookie quarterbacks that should have gone ahead of Bryce Young in this draft. All of that being said, and we saw the comments, and I chose to watch with those in mind, this whole team is very rough. There is not a lot of help for him. The amount of plays where he was just like, well, I'm swallowed up by this D-line, or I'm rolling out for my life right now. It was just pretty absurd. It is not a very good offensive line. He's not getting help. His wide receiver 1 is Adam Thielen. That's not a dig on Adam Thielen. It's just like, we got to consider some things before we make claims like that. So I'm willing to say, I do not think Bryce Young it is fair for him to be labeled a bust yet. He is in a bad situation. Wes, you and I both know very well, being Miami Dolphins fans, when you don't have talent around you, it's tough for you to look good. We watched Tua Tagovailoa have Mac Hollins as his wide receiver 1 in his rookie year. And it was not very, very pretty. It was not very good. But this team is rough. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's hard to see them being like a player or 2 away. It's like it feels like like you're like 5 years away from like a winning record. It feels like
they're the bottom of the barrel. I mean, they are 10 players away from being 10 players away. You know, like that's where they're at. Like they are far away from being good. And the worst part is Bryce Young was the first pick taken overall. He's the quarterback that was selected first overall. And that puts an insane amount of pressure and expectation on a quarterback because you are expected to turn this franchise around. And no quarterback really does that their first year. We have some outliers, and they are the outliers. But I was reading the comments, and it was just like everyone was saying it's not fair to call him a bust yet. It's not fair. There's only been 8 games that he's played because he missed one already.
Yeah.
So it's not fair to call him a bust. But there's reason to admit that the trajectory right now is trending towards him being a bust. And unfortunately, that's not all on him. That is just the circumstance of his team. And he just may not be on a team that can actually succeed. And this was the worst part, is that I thought between Young and Stroud, whoever went to the Panthers, I thought was going to have a better start because it was Frank Reich, former quarterback, who led the Bills to the greatest comeback in history at that point. And then it's Josh McCown, who is his quarterback's coach, who played for a bunch of teams. It was like, this is such a quarterback-friendly situation, and Adam Thielen is there, and Miles Sanders is there, and Chuba Hubbard is there. You got a solid tight end. But you think about it, no one on that offense played with that team last year. They're brand new players. This is a pickup pool of football players on offense. That's the worst part.
Right.
Now, I went ahead and I just wanted to crank out some numbers here on Bryce Young's pace and what the expectations are. It's a little tricky looking at all of the rookie quarterbacks that have played over the last 20 years because I went back to 2002 and looked at 20 years of quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, to see how they did. A lot of them did not play a lot of games, so I tried to have 10 games as a minimum to get a decent sample size. I looked through. He's on pace to do what rookie quarterbacks do. Okay? He's just on pace for that. But I went more specific, and I looked at what did the first overall quarterbacks do over the last 20 years. And about 10 of them played 10 or more games. Mm-hmm. And when you calculate that to a 17-game season, first overall quarterbacks average 4,027 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. Right now, Bryce Young is on pace for 3,300 yards and 19 touchdowns and 17 interceptions.
Okay.
And that is difficult because then there's CJ Stroud, who's on pace for 4,800 yards and 30 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That is the pace as of right now. Yeah. So there's something to be said about a bust as a byproduct of the circumstances of the environment, and there's something to admit about a bust by comparison to the players taken after you. Recently, we think of Mitch Trubisky and how he was taken, and then later went Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So one last thing, because this is a fantasy football show, so we'll get into fantasy here in a second, but people were saying the first overall pick goes to a really bad team. In fact, they go to the worst team in the NFL, so we can't expect good things. I don't mean to be the bad guy, but the Panthers were not the worst team in the NFL last year. They traded up. Yeah. They traded up 7 spots. The Bears were the worst team last year, and they just beat the Panthers. So
D2 quarterback.
And that's another thought. The expectations for a first overall pick compared to an undrafted quarterback are night and day. And when Tyson Bagent does what he just did on Thursday night, you look at that and you say, very impressive, nice. If Bryce Young were to do that, it'd be like, okay, yeah, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But when Bryce Young does what he does on Thursday night, you start to wonder, is he even good? That's just what happens. And it's not fair. It really isn't fair. Because then you have the Josh Rosens, you have the Jamarcus Russells, you have Baker Mayfield, who's been on like multiple teams. Because then you have Peyton Manning, and you have Joe Burrow, and you have many, many other quarterbacks that have at least been to the Super Bowl. It sucks. It does suck. But right now, Bryce Young is just not good. He is not good, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. And I feel very bad for Panthers fans.
I mean, he's QB1 on the week right now, so.
Right now, dude, after Thursday night, he's QB1, the QB1.
QB1, dude.
Freaking.
Let's go.
Who are you, dude? Oh, my gosh. There's the nail in the coffin, dude. There it is. The page is turned.
No, thank you. QB1 on the week. Get out of here with that.
More points than Mahomes this week.
So, 900 times more points than Mahomes this week. Gosh, what are we? What a bunch of fools calling him a bust. No, here's my last thoughts on it is that this team, when it's been led by Bryce Young, has put up 17 or less fantasy points in 6 of their 8 games they played with him.
Right.
Like, that's not great. I mean, he put up more points in the first quarter against the Miami Dolphins than he did all night against the Chicago Bears. Andy Dalton played the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle and scored 27 points with this team.
Dude.
Like, that can't go untalked about, I think. Like, and maybe it is that this is just how rookies should be performing. I've said for a long time. I've said for a few years now, and it's primarily come with being a Dolphins fan, but it applies to a lot of rookie quarterbacks. Justin Herbert ruined the rookie quarterback for us, for NFL fans. Justin Herbert came in and set like insane amounts of like rookie records. He put up tons of yards, touchdowns. Like he passed the eye test. Like, but Justin Herbert's rookie year ruined rookie quarterbacks for us, and so that is the standard that rookie quarterbacks are held to now. Which is why when you see a player like C.J. Stroud do what he's doing this year, that's why people are like, "Wow, Stroud is already an elite quarterback." I've seen people saying that there are only 6 quarterbacks in the NFL that they would take over C.J. Stroud right now. Like, what are we talking about here? Like I don't know about that. Come on. Like, what are we doing? Like, that feels like a stretch and a half. It's like, I get the recency bias. I get that he threw for 470 and 5, but like the week before he threw for like 140 and 0 and against the Panthers.
He lost to Bryce Young.
He lost to Bryce Young. And I get that Bryce Young doesn't play defense or whatever, but like, what are we doing here? Like this team, this Panthers defense that gave up 21 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown to Deontay Foreman. Like C.J. Stroud couldn't get an offense going with Dameon Pierce or Devin Singletary to get anything going on the ground there. And it's not all on him, but like the standard for rookie quarterbacks has been ruined in recent years. And so I think it's a good reminder to myself included, because I was ready to call him a bust, that like rookies are exactly that. Like, they're not coming into the league having experience like Mahomes and Burrow and Allen under their belt. They're coming in and they're getting their first action in the NFL. And so I want to loosen the leash on Bryce Young a little bit here and recognize that this team is bad around him. And also he's just getting his feet wet. He's getting ready. But it's worth noting that like Andy Dalton isn't incredible, or I do dare say good. And he put up 27 points with this team. So it's the experience will come. The time will do its work. And I think Bryce Young's going to be there for 5 years, so at least. So I think we'll in time see what we can make happen here. And yeah, they may not keep the regime, the coaches, the running, they'll fix things around him that they see they need to fix. But I think everything will be ultimately okay. There's a reason he went number 1 overall. And so watching that game, he just didn't have time. I felt bad for the guy. It was like, man, he is just...
I feel bad for him too.
I'll add one real quick. And a lot of things wrong around him. He also had moments where he just looked bad. This is not excusing overthrows. He also had moments, or I will say moment, where he threw like a 40-yard pass perfectly on the dot, on like a corner, like a corner route on the run. I'm pretty sure, and that was like, whoa, that's probably why they drafted number 1 overall. But like, sure. All that being said, go ahead. We'll finish out our Panthers talk here. Go ahead.
I was just adding on to that thought that you said. Like, it doesn't, like, we understand the reason people are like, you can't jump the gun and call him a bust right away, but there is reason to look at what he's doing and say, like, this isn't good. So the what feels like the standard of bad rookie year turned to Hall of Fame is Peyton Manning, right? Like, everyone always goes to Peyton Manning. They're like, well, Peyton Manning had a terrible rookie year. He's the record for most interceptions by a rookie, and they went 3-13. And then the next year they go 13-3. Well, I looked it up. Peyton Manning was 3rd in passing yards his rookie year, and he was 5th in touchdowns his rookie year. Right. So and that's Peyton Manning, but that's the 1st overall pick. That's the quarterback taken number 1 overall. That's where Bryce Young is being. He's on that list now of quarterbacks taken 1st overall. And another quarterback, as we mentioned, we're Dolphins fans. We stood by Tua and we said we can see the flashes of his greatness. His rookie year, when you average it out to 17 games and what he did, which looked terrible, he was averaging more yards than Bryce Young is averaging now. He's averaging more touchdowns. He averaged 21 touchdowns, and he averaged 9 interceptions. Like, Tua was statistically on a better pace than what Bryce Young is at right now. And there's the difference between stats and the eye test, and it's both do not measure up.
Yeah.
But let us know in the comments, because this was a debate in our last episode, and it is fair. When do you say a quarterback is a bust? That is the question. At what point?
Yeah. Man, that was... I didn't laugh for a while. That felt like not the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. That was just...
No, that was serious. That was like disciplinary. That was like parents getting at it.
I felt like I just had I felt like I was just in the principal's office. That was crazy. All right.
Yeah.
Thursday night, we made it through. Hopefully we'll have a better one next week. Ravens and Bengals should be a fun time. Let's get into week 10 studs and duds before we close out the show. Studs and duds, obviously. People that we think are going to exceed expectations, and people we think they're going to let you down. And we're just calling our shot. We're making our call here. And I'll go first, Wes. Is that okay with you?
Yes, please.
All right. So just to before I give you my stud for week 10, I just got to say one thing real quick, or sound one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Shoo, 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 shoo. Shoo, shoo. That's right. My stud for week 10 is Rondale Moore, wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. If you're not familiar, go look up Jonathan Gannon, Rondale Moore, because that was just.
What does he say?
Fireworks. He's like shots, rockets, or like something like that. And it's just like, what are we doing here, dude? Like, what are?
I forgot.
So who knows? We'll probably clip this and put it on social media, because, gosh, I can't believe that the whole punishment from Impractical Jokers this year is that someone has to coach the NFL. It's incredible. Listen, talk about Rondale Moore for a second. To go off of Wes, your call, I can't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago when you called Tyler Boyd to be I believe it was 2 weeks ago, because the 49ers were on a bye week last week. 2 weeks ago, you called Tyler Boyd a stud. And it was kind of like I think we need to, let's talk about some players who are kind of out of this, I kind of have a spotlight here. Somebody that maybe on a week where the Eagles are on a bye week and you don't have A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, or the Dolphins are on a bye week and you don't have Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, or the Rams are on a bye week and you don't have Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua, or the freaking who's the one? The Chiefs, or the Chiefs are on a bye week and you don't have Travis Kelce or Isaiah Pacheco or Rashee Rice. Here's somebody that I think we need to just get a little reminder and refresher on. Now, here's the thing with Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore was quietly very solid with Kyler Murray in 2022 last season. In fact, when he was on the field last year from weeks 4 through 10, he was the wide receiver 17 in that time frame. He was a top 24 wide receiver 4 of those 7 games that he was playing. And I think he's got a chance to pick back up right here. I mean, we've seen Jonathan Gannon sure thinks highly of him. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Shots, rockets, shots. Here's the thing. Michael Wilson, 3rd-round rookie wide receiver for the Cardinals, missed last week with a shoulder injury, limited this week. We'll see if he ends up playing. He may not play on his full snap count, but also that's a 3rd-round rookie wide receiver that Kyler Murray has not taken a snap with this in his NFL career. I think there's going to be a little bit of rapport that we build back up here, and I think we're going to see Rondale Moore be more involved with this offense. James Conner is going to be back. Obviously, Marquise Brown is going to be there. Trey McBride's going to be on the field, and Rondale Moore is going to be there. We've seen Rondale Moore take snaps out of the backfield this season. I think there is actually a reality where Rondale Moore ends up like a top 24 wide receiver this week. He was getting peppered with targets whenever he was playing with Kyler last season. I think he could be. We could be looking at like a 6 for 70 or 6 for 80 kind of week. Maybe he gets in the end zone. I like Rondale Moore this week. I'm starting him in a couple of leagues actually because of this bye week madness, and I'm excited about Rondale Moore. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here. I'm starting him over Jacoby Myers against the Jets with Aiden O'Connell in one of my leagues. That is where I'm at with it right now with this. It's a dart throw, but I'm feeling good about it, and I think Rondale Moore has a real shot to be a fantasy asset this week. So we'll see what happens. But Rondale Moore, I'm calling a week 10 stud.
And it's because of Kyler Murray. It's because Kyler Murray is under center. And I was considering for my studs, I was going to say Marquise Brown. I was like, fire up Marquise Brown. But Marquise is rostered like everywhere, and people are very likely just starting him out of obligation. Like, well, I don't have a better option. He's been fine. So it didn't make much sense for me to try to pitch like, hey, start the guy you've already been starting. But Kyler Murray's effect is going to be significant. And I like what might happen here with Arizona. I've got a good feeling that these next couple of weeks are going to be strong for the Cardinals offense as Kyler wants to prove. Speaking of number 1 picks overall, this guy's like, hey, I'm him. Okay, there's a reason that I was drafted by 2 different sports leagues, and that I'm here for a reason. Yeah. Jonathan Gannon signed up for the Cardinals head coaching job with Kyler Murray in mind. He didn't go there thinking like, well, maybe I don't have to coach him. No, this is part of it. I like this Cardinals offense for fantasy a lot. Very good choice for a stud. And I looked at Rondale Moore, and as has been the theme of this season, we've taken each other's players often. So I don't have Rondale Moore in a lot of options in a lot of leagues because you've taken him. So
he is on a lot of our options. Okay. 100%. Tell me who's your stud for week 10 before we jump into some duds.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am feeling pretty good about this. Not really much to say. Kind of teased it earlier in the episode when we talked about the news. I'm just reaffirming that Tyler Boyd should be in your starting lineup. Yeah. There is obvious starting stud potential when you don't have T. Higgins. And Jamar Chase may not be there. Even if Jamar Chase is there, T. Higgins has been seeing a bunch of targets over the last several weeks and has been heavily involved in this Bengals offense. So Joe Burrow is quite familiar with Tyler Boyd already. This isn't just next man up mentality. This is you want 16 points? Tyler Boyd could probably get you that this week with what might be happening. They're going to play the Texans. Texas defense is not all that hot. It's going to be hopefully a shootout. That'd be pretty nice for all fantasy reasons. But Tyler Boyd should be in the lineup, not just get him off the waiver wire and maybe he does half decent and you can trade him, or in case of another injury, you have Tyler Boyd. No, this is the week you start him. Absolutely, you must start Tyler Boyd if you've got him. So he's my stud for this week.
I completely agree. I think, we texted on Thursday, Wes, and when the report came out that it was T. Higgins was missing this week and was going to be looked at as week to week, I said, man, I feel bad because we just said 2 weeks ago, like, God forbid something happens to one of these Bengals wide receivers, but get Tyler Boyd on your roster because he's going to step into a bigger role than he already has been given.
Yeah.
And here we are. And so I fully agree with my league where I have Tyler Boyd. He's being rolled out 100%. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not too worried that, the whole thing recently had been in the past couple of years has been you don't play receivers or quarterbacks against the Texans because you just run all over them. That hasn't really been the case in the last few weeks. The defense has gotten a little bit better. Rookie Will Anderson Jr. They're playing better as an offense. So like you said, hopefully there needs to be some more scoring going on. I agree fully that this Tyler Boyd stud take is going to pay out again, and I'm excited for it.
Epic. We're on the same page. Oops. All right. Duds for this week. Big, important players on a bye week. Who should we still not start?
Well, we're back in Maryland, and we're making another trip to Dudsville because Gus Edwards is my Week 10 dud. Listen, 3 straight weeks of 17-plus fantasy points. He's in the RB1 in that time frame. He scored 6 touchdowns over the past 3 weeks. He's been awesome. He's been fantastic. I've loved having him in my lineup over the last 3 weeks. Obviously, I didn't get that for week 1 because I called him a dud. But I've had him in there since then. The last 2 weeks of great success with him has been awesome. He was the RB1 2 weeks ago in fantasy football. He's been great. Here's the thing. 51% of his fantasy points have come from touchdowns in that time frame. More than half of his fantasy points, 36 of his 70.2 PPR fantasy football points in that time frame have been from getting into the end zone. In fact, last week he scored 17.7 fantasy points. He touched the football 5 times in that game. 5 times. He had 5 touches last week, and he turned it into 17.7 points on an 18% snap share. Now, Keaton Mitchell could be emerging. John Harbaugh has come out and said, we're gonna try and work him in a little bit more. He's maybe nursing a hamstring injury from practice, maybe from the game. We'll get some reports on that today. But I'm a little bit worried about him emerging. And Justice Hill last week, even though Gus Edwards and Keaton Mitchell both outscored Justice Hill played 63% of snaps when Gus Edwards played 18 and Keaton Mitchell played even less than that. So I'm just a little bit nervous here about Gus Edwards. Here's the icing on the cake, is that the Cleveland Browns have allowed 2 rushing touchdowns to running backs all season. The Cleveland Browns defense is no joke. We've talked about it already. They're fantastic. But they're not giving up rushing touchdowns to running backs. And so in a week where we're looking at Gus Edwards' last 3 weeks' performances, he's been incredible. A lot of the production has come from those rushing touchdowns. We've got this Todd Monken offense that's like, hey, he's going to sling the ball. Like, Lamar Jackson hasn't thrown a passing touchdown in like over 2 weeks. It's got to come back to, we've got to regress back to where we should be at here, regress to the mean a little bit. I'm worried about Gus Edwards. I think we're taking another trip to Dudsville this week. I think we're going to see more Justice Hill. I think we might see a little more Keaton Mitchell, and I think Gus Edwards will come in maybe on packages inside the 5, and if you're starting him, you're hoping he falls into the end zone. But personally, I'm starting Ezekiel Elliott against the Indianapolis Colts over Gus Edwards this week against the Browns. Zeke plays in Germany. It should be a good game. The Colts give up a lot of points to running backs. I'm starting Zeke even with Ramondre there, and I feel fairly confident in that decision. So Gus Edwards is a Week 10 dud in my eyes.
You drive a hard bargain. I mean, he's on a roll. He is on an
absolute tear, dude. Which stings is because I love Gus Edwards. Like I'm a big fan of Gus Edwards. He's finally stayed healthy. He's finally getting the opportunity that he's deserved over the years. But when half your fantasy points over a 3-week span come from touchdowns and you're going up against a team that allows only 2 touchdowns to running backs rushing all year, he's not a PPR guy. He's not going to take a screen into the end zone. Like, it's not like that. He's not in those packages. So that's just the hard part. I get it. If it's through bye weeks, you have to start him. You're hoping he gets in the end zone, but I'm starting guys like Zeke over Gus Edwards this week.
You make a good point, and I know a lot of people are not going to take this advice because he's been on a roll, and it is on a bye week with some of the best running backs in fantasy are off. But at the very least, I don't own Gus Edwards in any league, so it's much easier for me to kind of just contemplate what you've shared with the class. But at the very least, this can be an opportunity for someone to try to make a trade offer.
Right.
Using Gus Edwards, or at least give some warning, some caution.
Yeah.
With in the event that Keaton Mitchell does end up taking over in the explosive home run plays.
Right.
But ultimately, because I've noticed this too, the snap count is not actually in Gus Edwards' favor. It really is in Justice Hill's favor. It is he's not the main back. I mean, Lamar Jackson is still going to be one of the first options for carrying the ball. It's going to be tough. If he walks out of Dudsville again and ends up in Studsville after you call him a dud again, can't ever say he's a dud no matter the match. If he does this against the Browns, then you've got to lock him in for the rest of the year. It's gonna be,
if it happens, it's gonna be exactly what happened last week. He's gonna get 5 carries. He's gonna break. He had 5 carries for like 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of the carries was a 45-yard run that he broke away. Then he had 4 carries for 12 yards and he fell into the end zone twice. Like, if it happens, it's happening that way, and you take the L, but like I can't see it happening. I think this game will be competitive.
It's not sustainable.
It's a division game. I think the Ravens are going to need to be throwing the ball more. I think this is going to be more of a offensive passing attack than it is a running attack. And as soon as I see one of those Ravens players go down at the 2-yard line, I'm just going to turn the TV off because I'm going to know what's going to happen.
Right.
So
the inevitable.
Yeah. We'll see okay. Who's a dud for you, Wes, before we close out the show?
Same division. We're going to stay here in the AFC North. This will be the third player of the AFC North. Yeah. It's going to be time to just bench George Pickens. We don't. Oh, were you scared? I'm curious, just for fun. Who did you think?
I thought you were going to say Zay Flowers, who was a dead candidate for me
as
well.
No.
We'll see.
No, Zay Flowers is still the wide receiver 1. George Pickens is not the wide receiver 1 in Pittsburgh anymore. That's the deal. That's the problem. Without Deontay Johnson, George Pickens was a potential hopeful play because he had some games where he was PPR heavy. He had some games where he just got lucky and found the end zone. He had some games where he had a couple catches, but one of them was like 50 yards. And it was like, all right, he finds a way to get double digits every now and then. And now Deontay Johnson's back, and we saw what happened. Yeah. Man, George Pickens is good, and they should be utilizing him more, but Deontay Johnson is better. Yeah. And Not to mention, let's not forget, because it was last week on Thursday night that we were like, hold up. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren looked like they could actually be a legitimate duo here. And Najee Harris looks as good as he did his rookie year. So let's not forget that. Let's not discount what's happening on the ground game as well. And it's tough because George Pickens has a nice little name value because we know that he could be something. But I can't start George Pickens. I've got him in some leagues, and I'm not going to start him.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to do the same if you've got GP.
Yeah, GP14. Yeah, no, I fully agree. And here's the thing. We said it last week, like you said, Wes. Deontay's back. He is the alpha wide receiver. He is the guy. George Pickens will still probably get 4 to 5 targets a game. They're going to be deep ball shots. And that's the comfort level with Kenny Pickett. That's where he wants those targets to go. But Deontay Johnson has a good chance to even start cutting into those. So I fully agree. Last thing I'll say, did you happen to see, I saw a video this week on social media about just because George Pickens was there's a little bit of drama on social media. He had like
he
his Steelers photos and unfollowed the Steelers and then like reposted and was like, they put on a story. It was like, yo, like just tripping about a post or something like that. And it was just kind of, I think he was from the naked eye, it was like, yeah, he's throwing a fit. He's kind of pissed off. And then somebody went back and found footage of after Deontay Johnson scored his touchdown. And Wes, I don't know if you saw the video when he's on the sideline and he's just like he's looking up the air. I saw him do excited.
That. Yes.
Yeah. So just over his right shoulder, a little bit out of focus on the bench while his teammates are celebrating with Deontay Johnson is George Pickens with his mask thing up over his mouth and just showing his eyes and then a little bit of his nose. And he's just sitting there.
The heck is
just stone face, just pissed off that he's not getting the attention anymore. I know, and he's just he was throwing a fit, and then we saw what happened on social media. So it's George Pickens is no longer relevant.
Well, now you drop him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, drop him. Get him out of the whole server of whatever platform you play fantasy on. It's disappointing. He has big play potential, but I don't think you can feel confident starting him now that Deontay Johnson is back. So I fully agree. George Pickens is a dud for this week. So I am in full agreement. That is going to do it for the show. Hope you guys had fun on this episode. We know we did. Good old time. Go ahead, make sure you're following us on all our socials. Always putting stuff out there at 4th and Troll on Facebook, 4th and Troll Fantasy. Drop us in the comments. Let us know you got some studs and duds for the week. Who's your dart throw for this bye week madness? Let us know. We want to hear from you. And as always, join us next Tuesday as we do a little bit of Week 10 recap. Look forward to Ravens-Bengals. It's going to be a fun time. Make sure you're there. We'll be there. Teddy the Troll will be there. It's going to be a good time with you guys. Until then, my name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy. 4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media and Selby Artistic Workshop.